And good evening. How are we all? Good evening. How are we all? Welcome to another edition. Why am I echoing?
Afternoon.
Am I echoing?
No.
I'm hearing myself.
Do you have another device on?
No.
Is somebody else in your house watching you? No, you're not
Hey,
echoing.
you. Right, you know what? You lot just talk. I'll dip out and come back in. Just hang on a minute.
And don't forget your green screen.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness gracious. It's all good. Well, it's Friday, right? And today we're talking about... Oh, yes. I'm trying to just ignore that date.
Oh, yes.
I love Friday the 13th.
I'm not superstitious.
No, but yeah. Anywho, we're talking about self-care today, right? So whenever Adam comes back. But Christine, thank you for joining us. And Nick.
Thank you for having me.
Good to have you here as always. We'll wait for Adam to come back. Oh, wait. There he is. Hey, he's back. Let's see if he still echoes. Do you still echo?
Am I okay?
Yeah, great.
Fine.
I know what it was.
What was it?
What was it?
I had YouTube open on another tab on this laptop.
Oh, no. It's playing. That'll be it.
At least it was simple and solvable.
Right? It sure was.
Normally I blame Ashley, but it's actually my fault.
Well, thanks. Appreciate that. Well, Christine, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, where do I start?
At the beginning.
No. That would take hours. Read my book. Read my book. I live in Tennessee. I'm from the States. I live in Tennessee. I am a huge advocate for women and men of abuse and domestic violence. I did suffer quite a bit of it myself. Everything from, the verbal, the mental, the sexual, you name it, and I've suffered it from Ashley, from the day I came into this world, because I was molested by a family member very early on, at a very early age. Raped by an uncle at 12 or 13. The list goes on and on. I've been abducted 3 times, raped, gang raped. The abductions really suck. That was not pretty. Like I said, I attempted suicide at least a half a dozen times in my life, continually dealing with toxic relationships. My mental health is definitely on a roller coaster ride right now, trying to deal with our healthcare system over here in the States. Like I said, speaker, advocate, coach. I do coach. I'm just getting into coaching men that have been through toxic and very narcissistic relationships. It absolutely appalls me what women do to men. What else? Lots. A lot. Oh, there goes Adam. My second and last husband was probably the worst. He was not only a narcissist, but he was a psychopath. He's the one that put me on this path, because back in 2015, he shot me in the back of the head. And it was the next day that my path was like, okay, it's set. I know what I'm supposed to do. I know where I'm supposed to go. I was guided completely. If you're spiritual, I was guided completely on that path, and brings me to Adam. That's how we met. So, and to doing this, being an advocate and speaking loud about mental health, especially in the abusive community, because we suffer so much self-loathing and doubt, and we're our own worst critics, because this was supposed to be a person that loved us, and they don't. Their actions are different, and we deal with a lot of mental health issues, especially suicide. And Adam and I talked about this, and I talked about this last week, that we do not talk about that enough. And what is this month? We got it.
Suicide prevention.
Yes,
We're
it
on
is.
the run.
Yep. And what's next month? Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Yep.
Well, that's every day.
It is. It is. In my world, it is, because I post about it. I try to post every single day about it. But I mean, I'm a grandmother, a mom of 3. My grandchildren that I stay with are little. They're 1.5 and 3.5. And thank goodness, let's keep it this way, that they are napping. So they're quiet enough in the other room.
Yeah.
And that's me in a nutshell. I mean, I know a lot of that sounds negative if you're listening, but to me, they're just facts. At this point in my life, I've healed so much. They're just facts. They're things that have happened to me. Like I said, with the ex shooting me in the back of the head, not only that, but he took a rubber mallet one time and beat me so bad that he, excuse me, cracked 3 of my ribs and broke my wrist. I've had hair pulled out in clumps, choke marks, bruises, black eyes. I mean, you name it. Like I said, he was a psychopathic narcissist, or if you prefer, a narcissistic psychopath. But again, they're just facts. It's just things that had happened. So that's me. Thank you for asking. Sorry for taking so long. I told you it was complicated.
Wow.
Thanks for sharing.
You're welcome.
Well,
You're welcome.
and it is by the grace of God that you are still alive, because he could have taken your life, and then you wouldn't have this story to share with people and to share with the world.
Yes.
So
and I died on the operating table twice. So and I should have died in a motorcycle accident. So yes, I am fully aware that I'm here for a reason. And my purpose in life now is to eradicate abuse and domestic violence through education, the nonprofit that I'm starting. I am definitely divinely guided in my everyday activities.
Yeah. I want to connect with you after the show for sure, because I've got family that lives in Tennessee. So it would be super cool that after, like at some point when I am back down there again, that maybe we could connect like in person.
That would be awesome. Yeah, that would be awesome. That would be awesome, because I'm curious about the whole self-care mama thing.
Yes. Yeah.
Where did that come from?
The self-care mama? Well, so I'm a mom of 7, grandma of 2, and just I think the word mama probably came from because my kids always call me mama, and just the self-care aspect in general. After my illness 6 years ago, and knowing that self-care needed to become a priority in my life, and the way that I began to add it was through my skincare, and then it's just slowly evolved over time. But when I'm speaking on podcasts, like either this one or any podcast interview I do, I'm always talking about self-care. It doesn't just have to be related to our skin and anything like that. And I feel like society today, and so many moms that I talk to are like, I don't have time. I don't have time to take care of me. I don't have time to, hardly take a shower or wash my face. That was always the excuse that I was hearing. And I call it an excuse because at the end of the day, we will always find time for something. And here it is, right here, your phone. So if you have time to sit and endlessly scroll on Facebook, you have time to wash your face. You have time to do self-care. It's just your priorities are backwards.
Yep.
And while that may sound harsh, it's the reality. We will find time for the things that are important to us. And if they're not important to us, we're not going to find the time to make for it. But talking about self-care was something that, and I should say was and is something that is very near and dear to my heart to talk about. Because if we are constantly saying that we don't have time for self-care, let me impose this question to you. Do you have time to be sick? Do you have time to be in a hospital bed because you didn't take the time for yourself? So really think about that. If you're going to constantly use that that excuse of, I don't have time, well, then think of the latter. And if I can help one mom or even dad with what I say, even though my main target is moms, if you will, and that sounds very whatever, but that's who I'm speaking to most of the time, because I am the mom. But at the end of the day, if it helps a dad stay well, if it helps a couple maintain their relationship because they took the time to take care of themselves and take care of each other as a priority, then my job and my mission was achieved.
Yeah,
you've helped me. If you help the mama, then you're also going to help the partner, the father. You help the children. You help. The whole family will benefit. So I suppose that's the point as well, isn't it? But if you help one person, it'll help the people around them that they relate to. So it's a ripple effect.
That's funny. That's funny, Nick, because I used to have a magnet when my kids were younger. They're all adults now, but I used to have a magnet. One of them bought me that was on the fridge that said, "If Mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy."
That's a good way of saying it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So does that answer your question? Does that answer your question, Adam? Well, okay, so here's the thing. You're the one that was like, let's talk about self-care. So now you need to talk. This was your idea.
Well, I think we should start with what we define as self-care.
Absolutely.
And that there are and Ashley, you know this, there are how many different types of self-care out there. When we say self-care, it's not just bubble baths and candles. That's not, with a cup of tea. That's not self-care. I mean, it can be, but that's not the only type of self-care. There's self-care that, your emotional self-care. For me, sometimes self-care is just to go outside, to be with nature, to meditate, just to breathe in and out outside. There's, excuse me, there's social self-care where if we're extroverts or an extroverted introvert like me, sometimes I need my self-care is every Saturday night, I get together with a couple of friends and we just play rummy, different types of rummy. But that's my self-care. That's my way of saying, okay, I can just relax, forget the week that I had. It's over and done with. I can't change anything, but it's my way of taking care of what my self-care means to me. I mean, it should be individualized. I mean, you can go out and go shopping. We caution obviously on, I like chocolate. So I have to be careful.
Who doesn't?
I know, but sometimes a really good piece of chocolate just, you're in heaven.
Yeah, but thing is though, shopping, is that really self-care? Because fair enough, it's fun, especially towards women if they're going out and buying makeup, handbags, shoes, whatever. But if they don't find what they're looking for, doesn't that not piss them off?
Ashley.
Nick knows what I'm talking about.
Okay.
I'm not shopping myself.
Well, there is that thing called retail therapy. So, I guess you have to take it for what it's worth. But also, I think sometimes what can happen with that retail therapy aspect is that buyer's remorse of, ooh, I probably shouldn't have done that.
Or that it turns into an addiction, Ashley.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
So I think there's got to be that line. Like you have to have the boundaries around it of, okay, this is what I'm going for and this is what I'm getting. Nothing further than that, but you really have to have that self-control.
And I think the self-care aspect of that might be just a window shop, just to get out, be out in public, just to go, check out the store, do maybe you're shopping for a birthday gift or a thank you gift. It doesn't have to be that full retail therapy. there are definitely degrees of self-care.
With self-care, I think it's about prioritizing yourself, and prioritizing, giving yourself time to do what benefits your well-being. And I think, and obviously it can be so many different things. I think it's hard to say it's just about walks or retail therapy, because obviously it can be, what is self-care is what benefits you, what you get, what benefits your personal well-being, what you enjoy, what gives you. But I think it's about prioritizing. I think that's the word, because I think we're all under so much pressure nowadays to please other people, our partners, our family, and to give time to them, and maybe our job. But actually self-care is about putting ourselves first. And sometimes we have to do that. We have to say, no, actually, I need time to do this. I need to make sure I'm doing this for my own self-care. And I think that's, to me, that's what the essence of self-care is. It's the ability to sort of put ourselves first and prioritize spending enough time doing what we enjoy or will benefit our well-being or mental health. So yeah, definitely. I think with retail therapy, it's about the emotional connection. I think that's, when we buy something, we get a little buzz, don't we? Often, so there's always, I think it's often an emotional connection with buying things, a little pleasure thing. So for me, I can see that there's something.
I think you hit the nail on the head, Nick, with the fact that self-care is associated with that mental health, that it's a way of keeping our mental health in check. Yeah.
Mm.
What do you do for self-care, Adam? What do you have a
go for a walk? I did go to the gym. I love that because people saw different in me when I was on the bike or the treadmill. I journal. I just lie down and just listen to music.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or sometimes I actually go for a bath. And there's been times when I've actually fell asleep in it.
You obviously needed it.
I
think I can associate all of those things. I mean, the exercise, the fresh air, and definitely music is such a powerful thing on taking us, to another place in some ways. That emotive connection of the music. So those are definitely things I do. I can associate those.
Yeah, another one I don't get is when people say self-care when they're cleaning. How does that work?
So
go ahead, Ashley. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, okay. So here's the thing. I look at, and much like you, Christine, as far as we have to look at self-care as the simplistic things. We can't look at it the way society wants us to look at it, of you have to spend thousands of dollars, you need to take this trip, you need to do this to refresh yourself, you need to go to the spa, you need all of those things. And I'm not saying that those things are bad. If you can do it and that's what brings you joy and it's not causing hardship within your family, then 100% do those things. But when you're talking to a burned out mom who's got a newborn baby, who's got a toddler running around, or multiple children who can't get away because her spouse is working long hours, or all of the things where she's just like, I feel isolated, I feel alone. Then you have to look at self-care as the moments of, I'm going to close the toilet seat, I'm going to lock the door, and I'm going to sit there and I'm going to brush my hair. Because not only are you stimulating your scalp, but you're just doing something that might feel good to your body, that brings you some kind of peace or relaxation. Maybe it's doing a foot soak at home because you can't afford to go to the nail salon. Okay, fantastic. Do that. Add your essential oils. Add some body wash that creates some bubbles. Whatever that looks like, do more of that. But then when it comes to cleaning, if clutter and like toys scattered everywhere brings you anxiousness. And when you can sit in a clean space and it boosts your mood, it makes you feel good about your space, it brings you calmness, then clean away, my friend. I cannot stand clutter. It makes me anxious. But I also have 6 kids ages 6 to 13 here at home that are Tasmanian devils and make tornado messes everywhere they go. So I've given up on cleaning at the moment. So I go into the spaces that I can control. So if it's my desk, which right now is kind of a mess, but if that's organizing the papers and putting stuff in file folders and filing it away, and then I can look at it and be like, okay, my space is clear. That's my self-care. I can smile. I'm happy. That's great. Then do that. So you have to do, in my mind, what is going to bring you that soothingness. Crank on some music. If you want to listen to Bon Jovi from the 1980s, put it on and clean. Because if that is what's giving you that anxiousness, and oftentimes our outside surroundings is a reflection of how we're feeling inside. So if we're feeling overwhelmed and we're feeling anxious, our surroundings are going to show that. So when it's cleaned up, it's a reflection of how you feel on the inside. And we were always taught that as foster parents. When kids have a messy space, it's how they're feeling on the inside. They're feeling anxious. They just have to have the mess because that's how they're internalizing everything. So then when you go to clean up with that child, they kind of panic because they're like, wait a minute, that's not how it's supposed to be. And then it can create more anxiousness. So you just have to be careful of what it is that you're cleaning for. Is it to have that peace? Or like you have to go into here and think about it.
Yeah.
I've got a sort of a question. I think when we talk about self-care, we often think, associated with things like having a bath, a bit of walk, go for a walk, things we do on our own to get away from things, to have a bit of time to ourselves. But could self-care be also, for example, if there's a new mother and she's at home with her baby and keeping the house clean, and her self-care, she thinks, well, for my, needs to be get out, have time to see her friends and get out of the house and have, someone else look after the baby so she can have some time with a friend she doesn't see often anymore. Would that be self-care? Because we always think it's all about just the person doing something for themselves on their own kind of thing. Can self-care also be sometimes quality time with other people?
I would have to say absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. If it just like Ashley said, if it makes you feel good on the inside, they could be anything from organizing play dates or be creative. So you have a couple of kids and maybe you want a friend over and you have your kids do a pretend tea date while you and your girlfriend have, a real tea, coffee, sit down just to chat, be creative if you have to have kids. That was one of the things with my 3 kids when they were little that I didn't, it was exactly like that. I didn't work. I was at home. I stayed with the kids, but I created play dates. We went to the park. We walked to the corner store, not to spend any money, but at least to get maybe a little water, to go to the park. Maybe if they were good at the park, we'd stop to get candy. But for me, that being outside and then being with I'm not a shy person, so it's not that difficult for me to go up to somebody and say, oh my gosh, could you see those kids over there? And it's just to start a conversation. But yes, it is way more, and I think Ashley hit on it. It's way more than that bubble bath and candlelight and tea in the tub. Adam, you named off quite a few things that give you self-care. And Ashley, it's what Ashley said. It's what makes you feel good on the inside.
Yeah.
Okay. For me, cleaning, that definitely is taking away my anxiety because I babysit my two grandchildren. They're 1.5 and 3.5. And if you think they aren't messy, they will take the box out and just dump. Okay.
Yep.
Just dump. It's like, oh my gosh, you guys realize you're picking that up, right? And I have to walk away. I'm like, okay, have fun, have at it, because that's protecting my self-care, my mental health. What do? I go clean something. That for me, because of my era that I was raised in with my grandmother, cleaning just totally empties my brain. It could be anything from just cleaning dishes to, mopping the floor, cleaning a computer screen, wiping down a kitchen sink, a bathroom sink. That my brain goes totally blank. I'm not thinking about anything. I'm still listening for kids, but it's total blank. And that's a really good place for me to be when I need to get all that anxiety out. It's that motion. Adam, you mentioned a few. When you said that you went to the gym, guys, that's why they golf, to be able to have some of that. Unless they're getting really ridiculous about it, but going to the gym, golfing, tennis, any sport that you're playing for fun. Even just to play with the kids outside, take your dog for a walk. If it's too much of a chore, then that's not self-care. If you're not looking forward to, I gotta walk the dog again. I just walked the dog 30 minutes ago. Why does the dog need to go out? That's not self-care. If you're questioning and you go, yeah, that's not self-care. Self-care is, as you said, Nick, it's inside. It's whatever makes you feel happy and releases all that anxiety and even depression, bouts of depression. Like I said earlier, I'm dealing with a lot of shit right now going on with myself, with the health industry over here. Okay. But I go outside and just to be with the kids and watch them play and just empty my mind. And it's like, this is so much. Why am I fretting about this stuff? Why am I fussing about this stuff? Life is happening right here in front of me. These kids will never be this age ever again. Mm-hmm. Plain and simple. We have to work at it sometimes, but it's there. And there's so many. You've got physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, as I stated, social, being with friends, the environmental, Ashley, you said, when you change your environment, that is self-care. I know my area where my desk is. I know where everything is. I know where everything's at. This is my safe space. Are the grandkids allowed here? This is grandma's. But that's my environmental. The one thing we haven't talked on is professional self-care at work, people that we deal with. And unfortunately, there's a lot of shit that's going on in the workplace. People are not happy. We have narcissistic bosses. We have abusive bosses and managers. So, there's self-care that needs to happen. And I don't think anybody talks about it. I don't think anybody, says, hey, what are you supposed to do at work? You got a job you're supposed to do. Or got this boss or that micro boss that is always behind you, always looking over your shoulder. Set boundaries, walk away, get a cup of water, take a few steps, go up and down an elevator, whatever you need. Self-care needs to also happen at the workplace. And I don't think we talk about that enough.
No, I agree, Christine. I think definitely, there's, with work as one example. I think with going back, it's like if you go for the cleaning, it's not my thing. Get cleaning, but I get it. If you get some pleasure or you get some reward out of doing it, then obviously it's definitely self-care. And it's like going to the gym. If you go to the gym as a chore and you don't enjoy going to the gym, but if you have to, but it's not. Is it self-care? But if you go to the gym and actually you feel better afterwards, then it is. It's part of your. Yeah. And I think with work, it's I think there's very few. People. I think there's who actually don't really enjoy work, and you're under a lot of. Obviously, I think that work is a lot of pressure nowadays with to keep your job, and keep working. And the relationships at work and the pressures and bosses. I mean, definitely self-care, having self-care at work I think we associate self-care in some ways of, well, outside work, what am I going to do to have that break from work? Work's finished, the weekend, the holiday. Now I'm going to do the stuff I enjoy. When actually self-care and the work is, like you said, Christine, just important. What little things can you do to have those little breaks, those little ways of getting you through that day and prioritize yourself? I think that's it's a massive thing. I agree, Christine.
Yeah.
Well, that's definitely something that like when even if you're outside of work, if you're properly taking care of who you are as a human being, you become a more productive employee. And then when you can carry those practices, if you're in a cubicle setting, if wherever you are in the workplace, and you can say have a journal and a piece of a pen next to you, where if you've got that micromanaging boss or that narcissistic boss and you can just journal some thoughts down, that makes a huge difference. If you can just take, say you can wear earbuds if you're literally like data entry and you don't need to be in meetings, or, where you're just inputting data, or something where you're not on calls all the time in a call center, where you can pop in either relaxing music or some type of like meditation or coaching kind of session or inspirational whatever. When you can put that on in your brain and you can just keep on working, you're getting that self-care into you, where it's soothing your mind and it's boosting your energy, because you're like, yeah, I can keep, you get focused and so zoned in. But even just taking those 5 minutes, a lot of times I tell moms and women and who I'm speaking to, just 5 minutes. You might only have that 5 minutes to run to the bathroom because you're in a call center setting. Okay, well, take your 5 minutes, walk your happy derriere to the bathroom, and then literally just sit there and just deep breathe. Like, if that's the only time you have when you're at work, take some deep breaths in, hold it, and release it. Like, just breathe. Right? Because we forget, that's probably one of the biggest things that we forget to do when we're so like anxious and stressed out and all of the things. We forget to breathe.
Yeah.
So it's those are the simple things that you can do at your desk. Or maybe you literally just sit there with your hands in your armpits for a moment, almost like you're just giving yourself a hug. And you're just feeling like that pressure, if you will, on yourself, like somebody is just hugging you, but really you're loving yourself. You're connecting with your body of, okay, I'm here. Like, we don't need to be on what is the actress on that movie? What is it? Superstars or Superstar, whatever it is, where she sticks her hands in her armpits and then she like smells them or whatever. Have you seen that movie? I can't
know what you're talking about. She's Catherine. Isn't her name Catherine from Saturday Night Live?
I think so.
I think she was
she's like this.
Then you go.
Yes. I don't recommend doing that. Okay, that's weird. But anyway, just sit there and just hold yourself, or put your hands on your heart and just feel your heart beating. Like, man, that thing is doing it all on its own. I don't have to think about it, but it's there. It's giving me life. So just tuning into your body is something else that you can do while you're in that stressful work environment. So
I love the fact that you correlated, Ashley, that if you're taking care of yourself at home, whatever that self-care is, that will naturally follow with you. You'll establish those habits for at the workplace. I love that you mentioned it. That is, thank you.
Yeah. I wouldn't. I like lists, and it keeps my mind in order. I like lists for everything, but and I've started on my list incorporating more self-care. So for me, I write down, go for a run, and then I'm more likely to do it. I've written on the list, and I've I don't know, read a book, little things that I put on my list, and I'm more likely to do it. And it's becoming a self-care plan for me. And I remember when my ex was about having a baby, pregnant, and she had a birth plan, pregnancy plan, and part of it was practical things, part of it is her maintaining her well-being leading up being her baby. So I just wonder what you think about, should we all have a self-care plan of some sort? So what are we going to actively prompting ourselves to do to look after?
I think we should.
It's an interesting idea. I think
the only thing I would caution on that, I think it's a great idea. Yeah. The only thing I would caution is the anxiety if you can't get it done.
Sure.
I've got a list, I'm the same way I keep lists, Nick. Okay. There it is. I have them, but I get frustrated and anxious if I can't get anything crossed off or can't get anything done. As Ashley said, I know what it's like to have a 1.5 and a 3-year-old, 3.5, follow me into the bathroom. One wants uppy. Okay. Yeah. And you're trying to sit on the toilet, Okay, give grandma a moment.
How many babies I have nursed on the toilet?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And
that's when I'll stay quiet on that one then.
You do what you got to do. Okay. And yes, we tend to, as moms, we most certainly put those kids, and of course for me, my grandkids, ahead of everything else.
Yeah.
When I finally do have a moment, and some days it's not till 9:00 when they're in bed and done and settled down, that I'm looking at my list going, do you think self-care is going to be on there? Do you really think I'm going to be going, I'm tired, I'm exhausted? Yes, Ashley, what's the first thing I might reach for? My phone, to see where, okay, let me scroll, because it's that numbing effect. So I would just cautious about, for some of us that have OCD and ADHD and mental health issues, that we be careful about making that list, that it could be a little detrimental instead of helpful.
Okay, so the next one then.
Go ahead, Adam.
What does self-care look like when we're in a mental health crisis?
Good question. And I'll tell you exactly what works for me, because I'm in a mental health crisis. I am dealing with the healthcare system over here right now that is, it's a freaking circus. It's a circus. I call one provider, they recommend, call this provider. This provider says, no, you got to call this provider, which is the exact same one that I called from. It's frustrating. And what, my emotion, it's like, you people, this isn't brain science. It's to replace a knee, okay? And just to get a console. This isn't going to the freaking moon. Nobody wants to take responsibility, And I said earlier, what I do, I go outside. Unfortunately, because of my addictions, and I did trade some of my addictions for a different one, I smoke. I still smoke cigarettes. So I go outside, I smoke my cigarette. But that is my release, my, Ashley, breathing. Let me tell you how helpful. We do forget how helpful that is. I know how helpful breathing is. That I taught those 2 grandchildren when they get frustrated, especially the 1.5, if you can't sign it, okay, and hasn't learned the word yet, I'll say to him, breathe. And he actually, at 1.5 years old, he's going, that's how much I've taught these kids to breathe, because I know the importance of refiring your neurons and your, all the chemicals that are going on in your body, especially the brain. Honestly, something else that I found that really works, not just for small children, but for myself, if I've gotten frustrated, I will take a frozen bag of vegetables. Okay. And I've already done it to the grandkids, and just place it on the back of the head. I've done it and placed it on the back of my head. It takes the attention off of where you really hurt or what's going through your brain, and actually just bam, just like that. they're going, oh, now I've got this cold thing on the back of my head, but they're like, complete change. To answer, I hope that answered your question,
Yeah.
Adam, but when and we all have some sort of trauma. We all have some sort of mental issue. It's a tough world. It's
But
where do you draw the line?
But yes, we're living in a tough world, but are we living in a tough world if we're not focusing on it?
Well, that was what I was going to say.
Interesting. Yeah.
That how much do we let it bother us? How much do we have that armor up and say, no, not today, not today. Let's just bounce off. Not today, not doing it, not dealing with it today. Nope, I'm in a good mood. My mental health is more important than whatever outside sources are coming in. Mm-hmm. It is a choice. You're right, Adam. It's a choice.
Yeah.
And sometimes we go back to what we know best. That doesn't mean it's the right thing or the wrong thing or the best thing. It's just what we know.
Yeah, and that's what I was discussing on, because I did a TikTok live earlier, and I was actually talking about boundaries, and I'm like, whatever happened to us growing up, whether we was abused, whether we was bullied throughout our educational journey, we had zero control over that. But now we're adults, we have full control over how we respond. Are we gonna get shit in our lives? Of course, but are we going to respond positively or negatively? Because we're all creating these characters within ourselves.
Mm-hmm. No, there's stories in our head, there's
a lot of questions as well.
That too. That too.
Yeah.
So would you say then, talk about boundaries, is it about setting boundaries? What? Well, I don't know.
Well, obviously, for example, if we was like myself, I was abused by my own family. I now don't talk to that family. Is it hurtful? Is it challenging? Does it trigger us when we're getting rid of them? Of course it will. But we get used to it. We get used to living on our own. We get used to learning our own identity without them influencing us. Because obviously my mum influenced me to drink, but now I don't drink because I don't need her in my life. So it's me taking back that control that I never had to begin with.
I guess self-care is sometimes making tough decisions about that, isn't it? About things.
Yes, it's cruel to be kind.
It's that's the right thing, or what is the right thing. There's the easy option, the hard option, and sometimes So I think it's all these things, isn't it? Sometimes it's you have to be.
Yeah. Well, who are we being easy for, and who are we being not easy? Right. Okay. Exactly. I mean, I know that's part of my personality is I will take into consideration somebody else, not just their feelings, but what they're going through and what maybe they may be experiencing before I consider my own. Does that put my self-care at risk? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, it's like, for example, a few years ago, I was doing group therapy and I was finding it really difficult. It was a 6-week program. And for the first 3 weeks of that, I was just literally sat here, but I was looking at the door where I came in. I'm like, I just want to leave. I just want to get out of here. And at that point, I was actually suicidal. But I persisted and I stayed throughout the 6 weeks. So I booked an appointment to see the GP, explained to him, right, I'm struggling here. I'm finding it hard. He went, right, so why are you doing it then? That's coming from a GP in UK. Why are you doing it then? But when I come home, I was messaging my old friend from school about this, and I said, well, I'm finding it hard. And then, good. I'm like, well, what do you mean? Well, if you find it easy, then nothing's working.
I guess there is something around, when we're undergoing challenges, particularly I think mental health challenges, sharing reach out for help and sharing. That is a hard, it's a hard thing in the world, because we don't want to sometimes tell people we're struggling, but actually sharing, to get help, you have to share with someone. That's how you get support, by sharing with the right person that you're struggling. So I guess, but that actually is such a personal thing in some ways when you're going through.
Yeah.
So it's.
And I think, to your point, Nick, as far as sharing, I think that's why I have literally made it one of my missions to be super vulnerable with my community, with those that follow me. Because in the end, when we're comparing our lives to somebody else's highlight reel and thinking, oh, their life is so perfect, what the hell am I doing wrong? Like, my house looks like a explosion happened in it. I've got these kids running around savage, like all of the things, like what is going on? And then you feel like you're all alone. You can't talk to anybody. And you're just like, okay, I'm just here. And you feel like, again, it's non-existent. Like you're invisible to people, versus when you can truly open up and be vulnerable with how your life truly looks and show people the reality and the behind the scenes, that inspires one more mom or one more woman or dad or whatever. Like, hey, I'm not alone. Like, she doesn't have her shit together, like, whoa. And I feel like sometimes we get so afraid of letting people in.
Yes.
Like Adam and I have had this conversation multiple times. People are always going to disappoint us. And I have a very hard time with that, because I'm just like, yeah, you pissed me off. Goodbye. Like, I don't need you. I'll do it myself then. So I have a very short kind of tolerance if you're going to cross me, kind of a thing. But again, sometimes it goes back to those boundaries of, I openly gave to you, let you in, was vulnerable with you, and you broke my trust. You broke that bridge. You burned that bridge. Now I'm just done. I'm not gonna just, willingly let you back in without a lot of stipulation and red tape that you probably have to crawl back through. But again, that's setting up those boundaries. It's saying no to things versus saying yes. If there's something that you absolutely don't want to do, why do we find it so easy to be like, oh, yeah, sure, that's fine? And we people please versus, I'm not doing that today. I'm not doing that this date. I'm like, no, for my own mental well-being and the well-being of my children and my family, no, I'm not doing it. And no is a sentence, a complete sentence. But we find it so difficult to say it to people, especially family members, because we have this immense guilt of, oh, they're going to be mad at me. Oh my gosh, this is going to create a huge fight. And then we spin into our mental psyche and we just lose control. Oh, yep, sure. And then we completely, like, our brain says this and then our mouth says this, and we do the complete opposite. But another thing, when you were talking before, Nick, as far as having that mom go out with those girlfriends, I feel like another thing that we don't talk about enough is self-care with our spouse. Self-care with our partner, whatever that looks like. If my husband walks in the door and I'm in tune with his emotional or mental state, I can see, you're stressed today. And I can read it. And he doesn't have to say a single word. He doesn't have to sit at our counter and say, I'm really overwhelmed right now. And all I have to do is look at him and say, I know. Because I do know. Because I'm paying attention. I'm reading his body language without him speaking a word. So sometimes in those instances, because men won't necessarily readily say, I need self-care. I need to take time away. I need a day off. They won't express what they need because they feel like it's a sign of weakness. I have to be this big, strong guy and this big, strong man, and I can't show my emotions. Versus saying, I'm really stressed out today. I'm overwhelmed. Can we go for a walk? Can we go out to dinner? Just the two of us? Can we do X, Y, Z? Or if you're in tune with your spouse, you see the stress, run the water for either a hot shower or a bath and let them close the door, lock it, and let them just be. So they can decompress, they can relax. Maybe they take a snooze. I don't care. It doesn't really make a difference. But just allowing them to just be. And when we can be in tune with that, the other thing too is do self-care together. Date your spouse. Go on a trip. Even if it's a weekend away, if you've got finagle babysitters or dog sitters or whatever it is, figure that out, plan it months in advance, and go away together. Because that and I literally just posted about this today, but go away together where it rekindles your relationship, where you can focus on each other. Because at the end of the day, I've been the mom that prioritized the kids over my husband, and it created so much tension and fights and just discord within our marriage that when I started prioritizing him and spending time with him with activities that he wanted to do or things that we found together that we enjoy doing, it brought us to a different level in our marriage. And at the end of the day, when my kids leave my house, I want to still be married to my husband. Not have this, we've been together for 40 years and now we're getting divorced. Surprise, we just stayed together for the kids. Like, if you're in a situation of domestic violence or something that you absolutely need to separate, 100% do that. I'm not advocating to stay together for that situation if it's extremely toxic and dangerous. But I feel like in society today, we've just, goodbye, we've washed our hands of staying in a marriage and working through it. Let's just upgrade to the new next model. That's how we look at marriage in society. And you can agree to disagree. You can be like, absolutely, you can totally 100% disagree with me. But that's what I've seen in my generation. We don't invest in our marriages anymore. We just do away and we just wash our hands of it. And then we wonder why the divorce rate is so high. And then we also wonder why our kids are dealing with so much trauma as they get older, and guilt and shame of why didn't mommy stay? Why didn't daddy stay? What did I do wrong? And the list goes on. And they carry that with them. And we think that kids are resilient to that and that it doesn't have an effect on them. But it really does. I'm a child of divorced parents. My husband is a child of divorced parents. I carry so much trauma because at the end of the day, it's an unmet expectation. It doesn't mean that some kind of dramatic event had to happen, but I carry that of rejection with me today as an adult. I'm 37 years old. My parents got divorced when I was like 3. Why am I carrying that nonsense? Because it rooted something within me of, I must not have been good enough, that my dad left. My parents split up. I was in 2 different homes, different rules. My dad was gone all the time. Things like that still play in my mind today. And I have to work deep at that. But we have to be willing to look at our marriages as something that is worth fighting for and pouring self-care into it and working with our spouses, letting our needs be heard and really listening to that. Body language, the words that are spoken, all of that. Because when your kids are gone, what do you have? What do you have that's left?
That's it.
It's like you're talking to me, Ashley. I wish I wish I met you before I divorced my wife. But we're together still. No, you I definitely I think I definitely would. Lord, what you say resonates with me, certainly. Wise words.
And sometimes it's not easy to hear it, but it's the reality.
Yeah.
It is the reality of the world we live in. And sometimes those are the things that hit us the most of, oh, I resonate with that. But now what? What do I do now to fix it? What do I do now to repair it? Well, first, it's like we said, taking responsibility. Take the ownership of it. And you can't go back and you can't change the past. Maybe you didn't do self-care. Maybe you didn't recognize those things now. But when you know better, you can do better. So now you look at it in any future relationship. How can I connect with that person on that deeper emotional level to really communicate the needs that we have together?
I think there's something about, I know from my own experience, I think taking things for granted or thinking that things are just, that's just the way things are, and I think sometimes you take things for granted or you think that's just the way they are or things will work, then, and actually you need to actively work at things, especially obviously relationships, you have to actively work. If you want relationships to work, any relationships with partners, family, friends, workplace, but you have to actively work at them. And I think sometimes it's easy to just sort of think, it's just the way things are, I can't change it, or take things granted and say this will work out, always last. And actually, if you don't work at things, things can. And I think for what you're saying, Ashley, about you're clearly someone who advocating for really actively making things work by taking all these steps to make sure your partner's happy and you're giving time to supporting him and yourself and your kids and you're actively working it, not just saying, well, I'm in a marriage, this is the way it is, this is just fine, take it granted. So I think that reflects a wider thing is it's too easy sometimes to think, well, I think things, if you don't actively work at things, relationships can be quite fragile, and you've got to strengthen them and nurture them by actively working on making the best they can be, isn't it, really? That's what I think.
Yeah, I don't know how to respond to that. Ashley's actually got me speechless.
I thought it was great. I wish I met you. I wish I met you years ago, Ashley. I met you years ago.
And please do not misunderstand the fact that I've been there. I neglected my marriage, and it was near like shambles. It really, really was. And it took a lot of work to get it to where it is today, where we can communicate and there's not that discord anymore. And don't get me wrong, there's still plenty of fights, but at the end of the day, like, we can still come together and pour into our marriage. And there might be, pushback of, well, how much is this trip gonna cost? Or, things like that. But at the end of the day, when we really truly think about what it does to us as humans and as a couple and pouring into our marriage, it's so needed. And we, like you said, we take it for granted. We don't appreciate it. We miss opportunities sometimes when we're so focused on what is it going to cost me versus what is it, or it's to the point of you can't afford not to. You can't afford not to take that trip. You can't afford not to go on that date or that weekend away. And if you can't, afford it, plan it out. Like I said, plan it months or even a year in advance and start saving for it. Where then you're like, okay, this is where we're going. Pick that destination. This is how much we need to save. Like, game plan it out so you know, okay, this is what we're doing. This is what the flights are going to cost, or, you know, where you can rough estimate it and be prepared for it. But it's so critical to do that for your relationship and your marriage. And even if you do a girls trip, if you're like, well, I'm not married, well, do a girls weekend trip or something, like where you're just being active and you're getting around people that you trust and you can be vulnerable with.
Come on, Nick, let's do a man's holiday.
Yes,
There you go.
A boys trip. I think there's a cost, there's a cost to doing things, there's a cost of not doing it. And I think the cost of doing things is not just about money, which is obviously a big factor in things, but also the cost of time and the effort and the cost of our well-being. And sometimes, the cost of not doing something is as important as the cost of doing it. So, yeah.
So go on, Christine. What do you think?
You're asking the wrong person. Because unfortunately, I do know the cost of the opposite of if I just taken, it's okay. It's just, you guys are hitting it right on the head. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I started out the conversation it's afternoon here, with the fact that I am an advocate for abuse and domestic violence. I told you, my second husband, the cost of not following through and not recognizing those red flags at the very beginning of that relationship cost me a lot in the long run. Okay. Yes, I 100% agree and will believe till the day I die that putting effort into a relationship, any relationship, whether it's an intimate partner or not, any relationship, it's two-sided. Okay. Yes, it needs to be done. Yes, there's a lot of work. But I have to tell you, in my side of the world, in my little bubble world of abuse and domestic violence, do not stay for the children. Do not stay in that relationship for the children. You are doing more harm to those children than you even can begin to realize. Okay. When you recognize those red flags, when the toxicity is just too much, you have to make a plan to get out. Okay. You have to say enough is enough. I got shot in the head in 2015. Okay. I did not have my plan fully executed and ready to go. It took me 3 years to get him out of a house I owned. And then another 2 years to be divorced from that man. Okay. But Ashley, you are correct that make a plan. Every woman is different when they have realized and gotten to that point, their rock bottom where they say enough is enough. Every woman is different. And unless you've been in that situation, you cannot, and I don't mean you guys here, okay? Every situation is different. And only that woman that is in an abusive domestic violence situation knows when her time is right, when it's meant to. And as long as you make a plan, the day after I got shot in the head and I looked in the mirror and saw that woman that I did not recognize with dried blood down my hair, down my head. Okay. And the look of the black eyes and the bruises and the choke marks on my body, I hated that woman in the mirror. But what I did was I said, enough is enough. And I knew right then and there that relationship was over. But yes, I will agree with you. It takes a lot of hard work, but it has to be two-sided. I'm sure if we asked you, Ashley, you'd say that your husband absolutely did a lot of work for you guys to be able to get to where you are today. It's not easy. It's never 50-50. It's 100 and 100. You have to both put in 100% to that relationship. So those would be my final thoughts.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What about you two?
Just my final thoughts are that self-care. What is self-care is a very personal thing, but the most important thing is to prioritize your well-being by allowing yourself to put yourself first and your well-being first, by giving yourself the time to do what's important for you and your relationships. And I think sometimes we need to be a bit set those boundaries, be a bit almost ruthless in putting ourselves first, because our own well-being is the most important thing. And if our well-being is good, then obviously our partners, our family are one of the things. I think it's just about really prioritizing our well-being, and I think also we just need to review things every now and then. We need to have a little look at things and say, okay, what am I doing? What do I need to change? What can I do better? Not in a sort of critical way, but just, I think it's good just to review how, am I looking off myself? Am I prioritizing my self-care? We all need to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
That's all I can say. I'm literally speechless.
Still, come on.
Last words.
I think for my, if you will, final thoughts, I think, like I said before, and as it was mentioned before, it's really taking the responsibility of where you're at. Again, you can't change what you did or didn't do yesterday, even 20 minutes ago. But at the end of the day, you have the choice. You have the choice to decide, am I going to make myself a priority today? Yeah. And if that answer is yes, then make it happen. Make it happen. Mm-hmm. You will find a way, or you're going to find an excuse. Yeah. Choose your hard. If you're stressed out and you're burned out, then that's the hard you're choosing, because you're not taking care of you. And again, if you're going to say, I don't have time for self-care, do you have time to be sick? If the answer is no, then something needs to change. But it has to start with you.
Yep.
It has to start with you.
Absolutely. Get your priorities in order. There you go. I think we should wrap up. I think I've never been quiet on a show as much as this one. Next week, I know all three of you are back next week. What have we got? Parental mental health when raising a challenging child. So if Ashley is ranting tonight, what the hell is she going to be like next week?
On to you, Ashley.
Hey, maybe I'll rant. I don't know. Probably.
I could facilitate ranting.
But yeah, please don't share this. Subscribe if not, and obviously any men that watch this as well. Me and Christine, we've got a WhatsApp group, which obviously Nick's part of as well. Yes. It's a brilliant group. Absolutely brilliant. It's active as well, isn't it?
It's great. No, it's great. I haven't contributed much as I should, but I think the posts are really active, and it's great to see so much. I think that's a reflection of how good it is by the amount of people who are chipping in, comments and sharing stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. So any men that want to do it, come on, Adam, get your words out. An hour and 8 minutes. I'm struggling. If anyone was part of it, drop us a message or a comment. Thanks.